Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about the brows. We're going to be talking about how I like to groom my eyebrows, how I like to fill them in, all of that stuff, the products that I like to use. I do show you guys like a couple drugstore options. So this is just how I like to fill my brows in. I get so many questions on how I fill my brows in, so I figured I would do an updated kind of like brow routine, but not only show how to fill them in, but how I like to shape them and all that stuff, because I feel like that's really important, is keeping your brows nice and groomed in order to fill them in. It's like a clean canvas. So I wanted to show you guys that for today's video. I just want to quickly say thank you guys so much for 70,000 subscribers. I never thought this day would come. It's crazy, but I just want to say thank you guys so much. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up if you guys enjoy this video, and if you guys want to see how I like to groom and fill in my eyebrows, then let's just jump right in. So I'm just going to quickly show you guys how I like to groom my brows before I fill them in, because I feel like this step is very important when it comes to your eyebrows. It's not all about just filling them in. So what I like to do is just brush my brows straight up, and then I will go in with some scissors and I will just kind of go across my brow in a straight line just to clean them up. But I don't like to do this too much, because then it can kind of give you like a short stumpy brow. So I do like to keep the hairs a little bit long. So then I will kind of comb it down in the shape that I like it. So when I was younger, I used to overpluck my eyebrows. So all this new hair right here used to not be there. It used to kind of just go into like this weird like arch shape. So what I did was try to grow all this in. So what I like to do is measure my brows. So I like my brow to start where the edge of my nose is right here. Where it should end is like where the corner of your eye is, and then the arch should be at the edge of your pupil, so about right here. So that's like how I like to measure them. Sometimes I will go in and pluck this area if it's a little too fluffy. And then a trick I like to do to clean in the center here is I like to take one of these little blades right here. I will pull at my skin and I will just kind of clean this up. But tweezers don't really get rid of all the little baby hairs that you have, and I always find makeup getting stuck on those little areas. And then what I like to also do is kind of go along my eyebrow. You want to be so careful with this, because if you bring it too far down, you might cut some of your eyebrow. So I like to just clean up all here, and then I will just go up against my arch right here. I don't know if you guys will be able to see that, but there's so much little peach fuzz here, and that makes a world of a difference. Like when you put your foundation on, you're gonna see such a difference. And then I like to do the same thing underneath. You always want to make sure you're pulling your skin taut, because it really avoids you cutting your skin. And then what I like to do is go in with my tweezers, and this is where I like to go in and pluck any unwanted hair. You just have to really figure out the shape of your eyebrow and what works for you. A lot of people always ask me how I got the shape of my eyebrows, but to be honest, it took a lot of like growing this whole front part in, because I used to never have hair there. So I had to kind of be patient and let that grow. So this is when I like to just clean up under there. Alright, so that's pretty much the overall shape that I like my brows to be in, and now we can go in and really fill them in and perfect them. Please excuse my hair, it is wet, it is not greasy. I'm trying to use less heat on my hair. Alright, so now is when I like to fill my brows in. Here is where you kind of have different options. So sometimes I like to go in with a pomade, and most of the time I like to go in with a pencil. So I just want to show you guys a couple different options. I really like to use the Anastasia dip brow, but a drugstore option is the Maybelline Tattoo Studio pomade. So if you guys really like pomades, this is a really good kind of like drugstore option, and the Anastasia one is like a good high-end one. And then as for pencils, the pencil that I really like to use is the Anastasia Brow Wiz. It just has a really nice defined point here, and it also has a spoolie on the end. But a really, really good drugstore option is the NYX Micro Brow Pencil. This is so similar. It has the little fine point here, and then it also has a spoolie here on the end. I really like having a spoolie because I can kind of brush through as I'm filling my brow in, which I find to be very important. Another good one from the drugstore is the CoverGirl Brow Pencil. This one is really good as well. It has the spoolie on one end and also the fine tip on the other end. So for this video, I am going to use my Anastasia one. And if you are curious, I am in the color taupe. So what I always like to do to fill my brows in is I always like to start on the arch. I don't know why, but it kind of like, I like to frame where I like my arch to be, and then I kind of fill in around that. So what I like to do is start on the top. So I want my arch to be about right here. So that is when I like to go in and start dragging down and drawing some hairs. I'm sorry if I keep getting out of focus. I'm trying to stay in camera. So as you can see, I kind of formed a little arch here. So then I will go in and just fill that in. And then I like to go in and define like underneath. Then I will kind of brush through as I'm going, just so it looks a little bit more natural. Alright, so here is when I start to kind of get closer to the front of my brow. So I will just draw a line kind of like on the top where I want it to be defined. And I kind of meet the top of the arch that I drew before. And then I will go in and do the same thing on the bottom. I'll kind of line where I want the brow to be. And then here's where it starts to get a little tricky, because I don't like to really fill in the front of my brow because I don't want it to look too filled in. So here's when I will take my spoolie and kind of brush through what we just drew underneath here, and it will kind of bring the product up and almost fill the brow in for you. So I like to do that. And then as you can see where my brow used to start, which is like right here, there is a little bald spot. So I will go in and I will just slightly hit that right there just so that it blends to the front. And then I will just slightly do that. So again, I like to brush through just to make sure everything looks nice. And as you can see, that's pretty much how I like to fill in my brows every single day. This is what the brow looks like once it's groomed and filled in, and that is what it looks like beforehand. But you can see it really does frame the face, and I really like the way it looks. So now I will just go in and kind of just fill in any sparse areas again. What I like to do sometimes is clean up the brow. If you got a little sloppy or you really just want to kind of perfect things, I will go in with concealer and really clean everything up. So what I like to do is just take some concealer on the back of my hand, and I will just go in and kind of clean things up. I like to do this step before foundation, that way I'm not like messing anything up. Then I kind of like to just take my finger and just blend around that so there isn't any harsh lines. Alright, so that is what the brow looks like. As you can see, it's kind of like the Instagram brow right now. I don't do this step all the time with the concealer. I only like to do this if I'm really going for like an intense brow glam look, or if I mess things up, you can just go in and clean things up with that. But that is what the brow looks like. Sometimes I will like to go in and fill the brow in with some powder just to kind of set things in place, but I don't do that a lot of the time. So now is when I like to go in and set my brow. So to set my brow, I like to go in with this Benefit Ready Set Brow, and I will take this and I will just go through my brows and really just set them in place how I want them. So sometimes I will go in and comb my brows upward and just leave them like that if I'm going for like a super like intense bushy look, but I don't do that often. So I like to just kind of comb through them and then bring them into place. So that is what my brow routine is. It's pretty simple, and when I'm doing this like every day, I do it pretty quickly. I don't always carve out my brow, like I said, with the concealer, so I'm able to do this pretty quickly, but as you can see, there's such a difference between this brow and this brow.